Hey everyone, this is Lori again reporting the social mobilization continuum. First, we need to establish some keywords for this topic. First, we have partnership, then dialogue. Of course, we have continuum, understanding, mobilization, unity, support, and participation. These words have something in common, an underlying common denominator. They are synonymous or connected to teamwork and to partnership, because that's what the social mobilization continuum is. You have your social mobilization. It is all going according to plan. What comes next? How do you ensure that the continuum does not die down? How do you ensure that the ball keeps rolling? Let me present to you the social mobilization continuum. At a glance, this seems so overwhelming. So let me slice this down for you. Now, I present you a simple cake sliced down to 5 pieces. These slices represent each sector that plays a vital part in our SOCMOB continuum. The first slice is for our political partners. This includes legislators, decision makers, and opinion leaders. To ensure the continuity of our programs, we need to have a solid backing. Our legislators and leaders can make great champions for our project. The first column of the social mobilization continuum names some policymakers. An advocacy with leaders in this group fosters the commitment that will pave the way for action, build consensus with sound data, and create a knowledgeable and supportive environment for decision-making. This includes the allocation of resources. For example, having Senator Risa Hontiveros as an ally for the LGBTQIA+ communities ensure that the cause will always be represented and talked about in the legislative branch of the government. On to our second slice, the government. This includes public officials, bureaucrats, technocrats, and other sector. This sector includes disparate groups, each with its own agenda, conflicting interests, and concerns. Harmonizing the disparate unit is the greatest challenge in development. Policymakers have failed to recognize the difficulty of fostering unity among government units, the bureaucrats, and of factoring the technocrats and the service professionals in decision-making and implementing the programs. We need them to advocate for our mobilization project because, just like our politicians, we need to get support from high-ranking officials for our mobilization to keep going. We can cite examples of public officials like mayors supporting our cause. Recently, Mayor Vico Soto of Pasig City got a positive feedback when a video of him was posted where he personally tested out a newly developed park in Pasig with the senior citizens and PWD in his mind. The non-governmental sector. This slice includes social, civic, religious groups, NGOs and PBOs, professional association, and the commerce industry. This is where we can really see mobilization at its peak. This sector covers a multitude of interests. It includes the non-governmental organization or NGOs for special purposes, social institutions and associations to represent organized support, religious groups with their bends, commerce and industry that operates on a profit basis, and professional groups for the advancement of their respective interests. These are important partners and allies to mobilize the civil society for various sound objectives. This is where it gets excited and where we can see our hard work. For me, this is the epitome of social mobilization. We have seen countless of mobilization acts in this state. The most famous is the EDSA Revolution. In modern times, we can compare this to the grandeur of the annual Pride March. For our fourth slice, we have our communities. What better way to encourage continuity than the community where everything started? Involvement of the community, schools, churches, mosque leaders, and grassroots groups is critical in terms of their participation. Their involvement is much needed to transform their goals into actions. Nonetheless, these agencies are in identifying and designing solutions to their respective problems. Community consists of schools, churches, and daycare centers. We often hear that it takes a village to raise a child, and that is right. This is the start of that village. For example, if schools begin adopting a program like reading, many will follow, or when a church begins to preach and support donation drives for the struggling sector, help pours in. That is how powerful communities can be. Lastly, we have the smallest unit of society, our families. We know that our first influencers are our parents. Individual actions are the ultimate payoff to the family problems. There is a need to take deliberate action to inform and educate individuals in the household to affirm their participation in community activities. That we know who must be involved in the continuous mobilization of our programs, we need to know its cycle, or as I would like to call it, the icing on top. This system is made out of 4 pillars, namely data or information, behavior or action, communication or dialogue, lastly, education or learning. In order to keep the momentum of the mobilization program, we need to keep our audiences informed and keep supplying informational materials. Next, we need to keep our actions consistent from the first time we launch the program. Next, we need to keep the audiences educated should there be additional information that surface during our monitoring and evaluation, and keep that information in mind for the updates in our materials. Lastly, and probably the most important of all, we need to keep an open communication with our audience and keep the dialogue alive. Unless the problem is solved or we succeeded in overcoming it, channels for communication should remain open. Next, we have the variables for social mobilization continue. These are the things that we need to take into consideration to ensure that our programs do not stop before we reach our desired outcomes. So we have biological, cultural, social, economic, and political variables. Next, we have the communication channels that we can tap for the communication or duration of our SOCMO. We have the interpersonal or person-to-person, the media, traditional media or our newspapers, radios, and television, and we also have special events. Lastly, let me reiterate the importance of SOCMO. We have poverty alleviation, promotion of democratic governance, conflict prevention, and the promotion of sustainable environment. These are the things that we can advocate for or improve when we organize a social mobilization program. So that's it for my report. For the next part in my presentation, please answer these discussion issues. Number 1, let's say there is a new vaccine for children to be more resistant to a new type of emerging illness. How would you encourage parents to vaccinate their children? Number 2, you launch your online campaign and it appears to be getting quite a following. How do you ensure that your campaign keeps its momentum given that the online landscape can easily change in a short span of time? Alright, so again, thank you for your time. I'll see you in the comment section. Have a great day ahead.